Imagine a truck that had to travel a full 8,500 kilometers. But the problem was not just how to make the truck complete such a long journey. The real issue was that inside this truck, there was a huge block of ice that had to be transported safely across Africa's blazing Sahara. Yes, the same Sahara where not only ice but even iron softens in the heat. This truck had to spend 10 whole days in that desert, but the challenge was that the ice must not melt under any circumstances, and that too without refrigeration. Welcome once again, viewers, to Inside Storyroom Videos. This story is from 1959, when the entire world's attention was captured by a single block of ice. This ice block weighed 3,050 kilograms, and it had to be transported from one corner of the world to another. Again, without refrigeration. Its starting point was the city of Mo I Rana in Norway, and its destination was Libreville, a city in Central Africa. But why was this ice block being taken so far? Actually, this matter started a year earlier, in 1958. Luxembourg, a country in Europe, had a very famous radio station called Radio Luxembourg, which was popular worldwide. This radio station announced a unique challenge for its listeners. If anyone could transport a 3-ton block of ice from the Arctic region to Africa, they would receive a huge reward. Radio Luxembourg had decided that for every kilogram of ice delivered, they would pay 100,000 francs, which in today's money is about 16,000 per kilogram. That means the 3-ton block of ice was worth $48 million, an enormous amount of money. But there were strict rules for this challenge. 1. The ice block had to be delivered in one piece. 2. It could only be transported by road. 3. The most difficult rule: no refrigeration was allowed. Radio Luxembourg had set such a huge reward because they knew very well that transporting such a big ice block all the way from the Arctic to Africa was almost impossible. This wasn't a small trip. It was 8,500 kilometers long, including 800 kilometers across the Sahara Desert, where the temperature reaches 50 degrees. Ice that melts within minutes after being taken out of a freezer. How could it possibly survive this weeks-long journey and still reach the destination safely? The challenge was given, but Radio Luxembourg had no idea how much trouble it would cause them. For months after the broadcast, no one dared to attempt it. But then a man named Bjorn Norvog, commonly referred to as Burger Natvok in the story, announced that he was ready to accept the challenge. Norvog was the managing director of an insulation company called Glassfat in Norway. He believed that using his company's insulation materials, this challenge could be accomplished. If he succeeded, he would earn a fortune for his company and employees. Soon, news spread worldwide that someone had accepted the ice block challenge. Norvog assembled a team to carry out the mission, and his efforts began making newspaper headlines. But when Radio Luxembourg learned how serious he was, they began to fear losing a huge sum of money. Out of fear, they withdrew their offer. However, since Norvog and his company had already gained so much fame, he decided to continue the challenge anyway, even without the prize money, because it would still bring immense publicity to his company. The plan was finalized. The ice block would be transported from Mo I Rana, Norway, all the way to Libreville, Gabon, in Africa. The route included Denmark, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Spain, Morocco, and then through Algeria's Sahara Desert before reaching Gabon. Norvog's team consisted of 1 engineer, 4 drivers, 1 truck mechanic, and 2 cameramen. They decided to cut the 3-ton block of ice from a glacier. Since it was difficult to lift in one piece, 200 kilograms blocks were cut and lowered by helicopter. These blocks were then refrozen together into a single 3,050 kg block. It was placed inside a special container, insulated with glass wool made by his company, and finally loaded onto a truck. On February 22, 1959, this extraordinary journey began. At first, the trip was easy, as the weather was pleasant and the roads were good. Since the news had spread worldwide, wherever the truck passed, crowds gathered to cheer them on. When the truck reached Paris, the police even gave them special escort through crowded areas, and the mayor of Paris hosted the crew. After a week, they reached Marseille, where the truck was loaded onto a ship to cross the sea. Once they landed on the other side, the situation changed drastically. They were now in Africa, where the daytime heat was unbearable. Not only was the ice block in danger of melting, but the truck's engine also risked overheating on the scorching sand, and the crew's health was at risk as well. On top of that, they faced security threats. The Sahara region was experiencing conflict, with freedom fighters hiding in the mountains. They could easily capture the truck and crew as hostages. To avoid this, the French Foreign Legion provided security through some desert areas and instructed the team to make as few stops as possible. But since there were no proper roads in the Sahara, the truck often got stuck in the sand. Each time, it took hours for the crew to free it. The mission of transporting the world's most expensive ice block had now become a nightmare. On one hand, they feared attacks, and on the other, the extreme heat was exhausting the crew and melting the ice inside the truck. They even gave water from the melting ice, the most expensive water in the world, to thirsty desert travelers' animals. Many nights, the crew slept in sleeping bags laid out on the sand. Slowly, battling all challenges, they pushed toward their destination. Finally, they crossed the Sahara and were close to their goal. After 28 days of travel, the truck crew and surviving ice block reached Libreville. They were welcomed warmly, but everyone wanted to know one thing. After 28 days in extreme conditions, how much ice was left inside the container? Amazingly, when the container was opened, it was hard to believe what they saw. The ice block that was 3,050 kilotons at the start weighed 2,714 kg on arrival. Only 336 kg had melted along the way, meaning almost the entire block survived, still in one piece. Even though Radio Luxembourg had withdrawn its offer, the challenge was still a complete success. The ice was broken and distributed among the people of Gabon, most of whom had never seen ice before. Norway and his company didn't receive any cash reward, but the publicity skyrocketed their sales. Even today, glass wool is produced under the name Glava, and since 1959, their popularity has only grown. We hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for your kind comments. See you in the next amazing video.